really amazing. We have a Women in Commercial, What Women Want study underway, and we're interviewing 100 women in commercial real estate and in ancillary services to commercial real estate to really understand how to attract women, how to retain women, and how women like to work. If any of you have interest in being interviewed, it takes about 40 minutes, and we're interviewing men and women and hoping to release the results of that study in September. To get things started today, I want to thank our sponsor, Centennial Lending, and turn the stage over to Julia.
Hi there.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Can you see me?
We can see you.
Perfect. Well, I'm very excited to be sponsoring this event because I am a woman in commercial lending. And, I actually saw Courtney last year during our February award ceremony when you were awarded as a top commercial broker. So I started in Centennial Lending a month after that, after I saw you. So I'm super excited to be given this opportunity. I'm very excited about hearing you speak and definitely love this organization. And I just wanted to give a few words about me. I've been in lending for over 15 years, and Centennial Lending is a great organization. I love it. Our process is very smooth, fast, and we never have any prepayment penalties. So if any of you or your friends have some kind of real estate project to discuss, I would love to help. And also, wanted to give kudos to Katie. What a great job you're doing. And thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to sponsor this event.
Thanks, Julia. Really appreciate the support today.
Yes, and I'm gonna send you my better number, my cell phone number on the chat because it's a better number to contact me. Okay?
That sounds great. So if you look in your chat box to the right of your screen, you'll see Julia's contact information, and it'll be in our follow-up email too. So anyway, thank you all for being here today. I'm so excited. Like Julia, I am a fan of Courtney Key. We have her here with us. She is a partner at SullivanHayes. And before we really dig in, I want to read a little bit about Courtney to give you some background on her. Originally from Southern California, Courtney grew up in Springfield, Missouri, and moved to Denver in 2004 for college. Outside of work, her top priority is family, friends, and having fun. She loves to ski, travel, host parties, play tennis, indulge in lake life, hike with the kids, go on long walks, not on the beach, but throughout cities. She loves construction projects and rearranging furniture. She is passionate about real estate and Colorado's vibrant community. She values long-term relationships and working hard for her clients. We all see that. While enjoying the dynamic mix of tenants, landlords, and developers. Courtney Key is a past president of DMCAR, so I've had the opportunity to work really closely with her and travel. She is a celebrated top producer in the Heavy Hitter Commercial Awards ceremony, and as our top retail broker many times over, and most recently honored as our top broker of the year. And so on that note, Courtney, the last time our commercial real estate industry was together, it was, if you remember right, 2019, March of 2019, we were all in the ballroom at the Four Seasons. You'd been on stage a couple of times. We honored you as the top retail broker and then shocked you with the Broker of the Year award. And it was a lot of your comments were moving and inspirational to all of us. And Julia, we were there. So that you had a couple of kids and you were talking about the markets of those days. Now, fast forward 2 years, what has changed? Tell us about you today.
Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm really honored that you wanted to hear from me and that anybody is even tuned in. So thank you. You know, we are doing surprisingly well. We just had, and much better than I would have expected if you would have asked me that question about a year ago. My COVID snapshot is somewhat similar to many. instead of a big giant trip that we had planned, we decided to go for another baby. And instead of one, we got two. So, when I found out, I was in shock. I bawled my eyes out. And then I hired a full-time live-in nanny. And our life is probably better and more under control now than it was before. Since this is a women in commercial series, I think it's important to note, my pregnancy was really, really complicated. Twins in general is complicated, but we developed something called twin to twin. We had a pretty serious laser surgery that it was a kind of a 50-50 if it would work, 100% that we would have lost the boys without it. And we got so incredibly lucky. Everything worked out. And now we have two beautiful twins, two really young toddlers. And we laugh at ourselves for having 4 kids in 3 years.
There's a memory that I sometimes share when I'm mentoring young women where the two of us were behind the curtain. This was years ago. I had just had a baby a couple of weeks before, and you had just had a baby maybe a week earlier. And I can't remember if I think it was Greg Moss was maybe getting ready to do some MC work, and we were going to go up on stage and talk. And we were both furiously texting our nannies. And he looked at us and said, busy day. And I go, oh yeah, we're just touching base with the nannies. We're ready. Tell us when you are. And he said, oh, how old are your kids? And Courtney and I both stonewalled him. Neither one of us were willing to say, 7 days. And at that time, we'd both had very easy pregnancies. And so now you've weathered both scenarios like a champ. So talk to us about, you've shared this last year or so. Talk to us about the last 5 years. You've really come into your own as a major top producer. You've become a partner in the firm over the last 5 years, and you've built your family at the same time. Tell us about what that was like.
Well, it's definitely been intense, and it's been a lot of work. But I think kids have had some unintended benefits to my career that I wouldn't have expected. For my career, but then also for me personally, it's all about connection with clients. And when you can bond with somebody over screaming toddlers or sleepless nights, or maybe most importantly, the value of someone's time and how to use it, I think you become a lot more valuable. I think kids have in some ways kind of chilled me out because I can cut through nonsense really fast because I don't have time to mess around. I've kind of always been on a hot pursuit for efficiency in my life. And there's nothing that motivates you more than getting to spend time with your family. So if I have 100 things to crank through in 3 hours, I do it. And I don't know about you, but if I have 4 things to do in a whole day, I can barely get anything done. So I think those are some real benefits. I think there's some practical and functional benefits that kids have had to my career. I'm in retail brokerage, so I've been enlightened to a whole world of kids entertainment, daycares, the convenience of a drive-through, all these things that are really practical when I'm going through a merchandising mix with a landlord or representing a tenant. For example, I represent a swim school. If I truly understand pick up and drop off and the madness of that, time commitment and getting yourself on a list and a schedule, all of that just is helpful. But I would say one of the most unintended benefits of having kids for any young professionals listening, I would say it kind of shows the power of our competitive spirit. I think my past 5 years have been propelled because I've had such a chip on my shoulder and a lot to prove, because I never wanted to lose a deal, because I felt like somebody, didn't want to give me a shot because I was pregnant. I always wanted to make sure that I felt like I had to work twice as hard so that clients knew that they were a top priority, and I was never going to kind of take my eye off the ball for them. So I think that competitive spirit of not wanting to miss out. Well, I have chronic FOMO, so I don't want to miss out on anything ever. generally speaking. But I would say that's been great. And then, another thing with kids and how it's benefited my career, I would say, I think it's made me tougher, but I also think it's made me kinder. And I think I'm a little bit more understanding of just life and people being human. I think there's a vulnerability to having young kids and just wanting the best for them and knowing that you have no idea what you're doing. So kind of just like that realness. And then also, I think it's empowering. I don't know if we talk about that enough as women. It's really empowering to kind of, anytime you have a hard task at hand and you complete it, you build confidence that you can't pay for. That's intangible. Or kind of the humility of the ambiguous fat phase of being pregnant and then being gigantic and then having the drive and the will to kind of work out and lose the weight and get there again. Like all of that kind of builds this confidence that I think is really powerful for our careers. And I, as much as I love my family, I love work. There's not like a finite amount of love and passion to go around. So I think it's all interconnected. And I think it's a little bit ironic how many kids I have now, because I spent years stressing out about how they would torpedo my career. And I think the anticipation of that was worse than the reality.
You said a couple of things. For those women out there who don't have kids yet, you can only maybe imagine the grace that Courtney's found through actually going through it. But when you were talking about efficiency, that's something we all learn in commercial real estate. If we're going to be competitive, you're going to be one of the top producers or the large shop managers. You learn how to work a day so that it gives you the most. And so what you're really saying is, if you have learned that skill in commercial real estate, you're ideally suited as a woman to maybe be able to make it and to bring these kids along.
Yeah. How we manage our family is a successful household is probably similar to a successful business.
Sometimes I say how I do it is by using my whole calendar, 24 hours a day, and always blocking out those 7 hours where I sleep. All right, being pregnant and working full-time is hard. We've shared some really funny stories about how we've gotten through that over the years, and I've shared some with all of you, with some of the other ladies we've interviewed. What's your advice? How did you power through?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm extremely happy to be done with that phase of my life, to never be pregnant and work full time again. But you just have to roll up your sleeves and grind through it, because the end result, a career that you love and a family, a kind of a big, well, for me, a giant loving family, is wonderful. It's kind of all I've ever wanted in life. And so I think I would be remiss, since this is a women in commercial real estate interview, to not mention kind of the macro level social experiment that just happened through COVID, because every single woman I know that was pregnant kept it a secret, because we were all Zoom from the neck up. Nobody had to know you were pregnant. And there's probably more to unpack there, but I think there's something to that feeling of being regulated that is, well, like I said, it's kind of propels you and pushes you forward. But when we all had the choice to not say anything, we didn't. But I guess kind of coupled with that, some of the best advice I got from one of my best friends, who's a total powerhouse, when I got pregnant with McKenna, was she said, rather than shying away from new business in fear of what I can handle, to take on more and to truly make myself invaluable to my clients, to my partners, and just kind of lean in. So I took that advice to heart. And when I was 8 months pregnant, I would be grinding to find new business. And, so my advice to young women is to lean in and don't let someone else regulate what you can handle.
I love it. It's a go for it, do it all. Mm-hmm. I can relate to, making, sort of having a chip on my shoulder. There's a story I share sometimes where a year after that scenario where Courtney and I were kind of behind the curtain, I was still breastfeeding for one of my kids, and I had mastered the outfits so that, maybe it looked like I gained weight or something was happening, but maybe it wasn't obvious enough to talk about a baby almost all the way through to the end. Now, the problem occurred when I was on stage moderating an economic development panel and my milk let down under my jacket and it filled up my shoes. But what most people know is I never left the stage. I never talked about it to anyone except the staff. And I left a little pool, it filled my shoes and left a pool on the stage and I walked off. So right or wrong, I feel your comment so much about, is there more to unpack there? That's a whole episode.
Oh my gosh.
On what we've done to make sure we present an impeccable front.
Yeah, the number of random bathrooms I've pumped in on site tours to make sure my kids
know where
get,
they all are.
Yeah, to make sure my kids get food, but my clients don't think that I'm in any way impacting the day negatively or taking their time for, the kids. So anyway, that was a funny story.
I share it sometimes off camera. All right, short question, big answer. How do you do it all?
Oh, well, in short, I don't. There's no possible way I could have twins at home and toddlers and work the way I want to work and live in anything short of a disaster zone. So, I think first and foremost, I got really lucky and I found the right partner in crime. My husband is undeniably my better half, and we have a true modern 50-50 partnership. We tackle responsibilities. We have different responsibilities within the household. I would never unpack all the recycling and take out the trash, but I manage other things. But, we have a true partnership, and we really spend time identifying what we want in life and what makes us happy. And I think we've come to realize what makes us happy is true quality time as a family, working slightly insane hours to make sure we're kind of doing our best at work. We have to have a clean and organized house or we'll lose our minds. And we have to spend time with friends and family. And so I think the common denominator to all of that is the people we surround ourselves with. For example, at work, I have the world's best partners at SullivanHayes. I got so lucky to have Brian Shorter as a mentor and still have him as a mentor. But all the guys at SullivanHayes, this business can tear you down. And to have people that are always in your corner is a really big deal, or that support you when you have twins. It's really important, and kind of the intangible, I think, to people's success is that chemistry that you find with the right people in a work environment. I think we're incredibly lucky with our friend group in Denver. Max is born and raised here. I went to DU. We met when we were 23. So we have a lot of history of friendships, and we put a lot of time and energy into those. And now we all have kids together, and it's just so incredibly fun, kind of rounds out our life. We're within a mile of our siblings. My sister is a total badass. She's an architect with Tribe. I get to see her all the time.
She had twins.
She also had twins. So I got to see how to do it. They're 3 now. Of course, we have an amazing live-in nanny. We had to adjust our situation when we found out we were pregnant with twins because it was next level
Changing
organization. But I would say also the one thing is we have rock star grandparents, and they pick up all the pieces we drop. They see all the voids. They fill all of our holes. The only reason McKenna skied last year is because her Appa and Mimi made it happen. Nana and Granddaddy, who are my parents, they bake Valentine's Day cookies with them and takes them for special one-on-one time. All the things that we just don't have time. We'd love to do, but don't have time to do. So in long, I'd say we do a lot, but it's a gigantic group effort.
The village, you've built the village you need.
It's the only way.
You talked a little bit about the trash. So you don't take out the trash. So you gave us a snapshot of what the evening routine looks like, but what is a day in a life?
Oh, okay. Well, this is funny because I did just have somebody who's about to she just met the right guy, wants to have kids. She's like, but I don't think I could do it. How do you do it? Like, what does your day look like? So to get into the weeds a little, I would say every single morning, like clockwork, my daughter's door slams, and she's 3.5 and tiny, but she sounds like an elephant running down the hall, slams open the door and says, Mommy, Daddy, I have to go pee. And then I'm going to come snuggle every day. It's the exact same thing. So the morning is just I'm sure just like you, just a juggle and getting them dressed and fed and sunscreen and shoes, which shouldn't take as long as it does, but it does. In the middle of that, I pump for the twins. I try to fit in 10 to 15 minutes of a workout that usually ends with squats, holding both toddlers upside down, dropping the kids off for school. In the mornings, I don't really get to see the twins just because the toddlers need to go to school and I have to go to work. And fortunately or unfortunately, they sleep till 8:30.
Wow.
So I probably am taking some version of a conference call on the way to work. I try not to do my makeup in the car because I know it's really dangerous, but I do. And then the day is just, it's all about kind of prioritizing what needs to happen. The fun part of the business is it's always different. You know, sometimes I'm on conference calls, site tours, having to ignore the 100 emails in my inbox to actually get a project done for a site tour for a tenant, or, you know, so every day is different. And if I'm lucky, I eat. And I would say that's what makes it, you know, really fun. It goes by in a flash. When I get home, it's all toddler time. I either take the kids to the park or have the neighbors over, or tonight we're getting beetle kill for the aspen trees because McKenna is very worried about them dying. Mm-hmm. And then around 8:30, my husband and I have a little pat on the back that all kids are down. And, you know, when we built our house, we live in Wash Park. When we built our house, we planned for 4, maybe 5 people, but now we have 7 people. So our office is now in our bedroom. And, you know, luckily we both have to work late usually to make sure we don't start the next day really behind. So we try to make it fun. We'll put on some sort of top 10 Netflix show and have it in the background and crank through emails, and then we do it all again.
You talked about doing your makeup in the car. So I feel like if maybe you are a freshman in the school of raising kids, maybe I'm a sophomore or a junior, our kids are 5 and 8.
Okay, give it to me.
This morning we both came in hot and we're here with all of you. We've done a lot. Feels like lunchtime by the time we went on camera. But what I did do today that I don't always do was do my makeup a little bit in the car on the way here because we were going to do screen time. And I was thinking to myself, I haven't had to do this in a long time. So you come out of the woods on a lot of these things. I'm just slightly ahead of you. And I know on the really hard days, I look ahead and imagine them leaving for college, and it gets you through the worst of it. So, and part of the worst of it is something that probably any parent can relate to, and that is parent guilt or mom guilt. And so tell us about yours.
Well, I of course have it. But you know, I would say it's an appropriate amount and it's nothing crippling. You know, I unapologetically love working and I unapologetically love my kids and I make time for both. You know, it's working full time is the path I've chosen, and I think it's a huge responsibility to show our kids how to make time to exercise, for friends, for your own work, and, you know, to truly be happy when I'm home with the family. And I don't feel like I need to be a martyr for my kids. You know, I love them and I love spending time with them, but, you know, I think that it is a version of doing it all, and I'm happy with the path I've chosen. You know, and lastly, 4 kids are expensive. Kids are expensive, but 4 is insane, so I don't really have a choice.
That's a good way to look at it, and our daughters are watching.
Yeah.
What do we want them to feel about taking on it all?
This morning, McKenna says, Mommy, you have a conference call? And she's, you know, 3.5. So I think, you know, it's the path we've chosen. It's right for us. And it really doesn't bog me down.
I remember my daughter when she was about that age, when she was a toddler, you know, she would get these gifts like all little girls do, these purses and things for birthday and Christmas. but my daughter would carry her purse around and walk really fast and say, I have a meeting. I have a meeting.
That's so cute.
Forget fashion.
Yeah.
Got a meeting.
Oh, that's cute.
All right, we got to talk about balance. It's larger than life out there right now. And we've got 1.7 million women across the country hesitating on going back to work and trying to think through how they do it all. What does balance look like to you?
Probably similar to yours. I think my version of, not to put words in your mouth, but I'd say my version of balance is probably burning the candle at all ends, because that's really what makes me happy. My version of happiness doesn't mean that I'm stress-free. It's probably the opposite. But it's working hard for clients. It's spending quality time with my family, checking in with friends, seeing how they're doing, and then also being adventurous. When we found out we were pregnant with twins, I kind of thought my life was going to be over and nobody would hire me again. I had no idea how it was going to all work. But, the twins are 4 months old and we've road trip to Wyoming, 12-hour road trip to Missouri. We go to the mountains, we figured it out. But it's not a 9-to-5 society. I think everything's interwoven, and you can't neglect your family. You can't neglect your clients. And so if we're working so much that our eyeballs are bleeding, we probably need to have friends over and spend some time with family. And on the flip side, if we've had a really fun weekend, we're excited to go to work on Monday. So our version of balance is how we constantly kind of check in and make sure we're happy.
I like that you and your husband have taken time to really define what happiness looks like. I also love your comment about it's not a 9-to-5 world anymore. When Barbara Perrier, she was the MacArthur Award winner, that was here from the top producer from CBRE. She was in our event series this last time. She talked about commercial real estate being the ideal profession for women and women who want to grow families, because she was able to juggle so much as she grew her own family as a single mother. And so the definition of balance is different for her than it is for Courtney or for myself.
Right.
But just understanding that give and take. We have a couple more big questions for you. And then if you all want to think about your questions that you have for Courtney and put them in the chat, Ellen's going to help us with those. We have 15 minutes or so before we do our jewelry giveaway for questions from all of you. So you get to access Courtney here in a little bit. Okay, playing to your strengths is a well-documented aspiration. What personality traits help you succeed?
I would say my most natural state of happiness is being with people. And, I got really lucky to find the right team at SullivanHayes. And through that, now great clients. And, I learn from them every single day. And I would just say, I truly love doing business with our peers, the brokers that we call every day, that 10 minutes of calls that I have. I'm probably calling friends, checking in on deals, so now that I've been in the business for, I guess, almost 12 years and have a long way to go, but I've developed real friendships. I would say brokerage is a team sport. And I've kind of been training for it my whole life. I did competitive sports growing up and always wanted to be involved in everything, student council, socializing, planning parties, whatever it was. But I also worked really, really hard in school. And I was never the type of person that could walk into a test and ace it. I had to work hard and I had to put in the time and grind. And I think that translates to brokerage because it is a grind. I'd say the more tactical and boring side is, a lot of the skills that help me are time management, organization, efficiency, things we've talked about. I think a big one is a positive attitude and positive energy. That's such a big deal. I walk in every day and John Leprando sits next to me and he has the best attitude every single day. I know exactly what I'm going to get from him every day. And it's really inspiring. It's motivational. So kind of personally being positive, but then making sure I surround myself with positive people. Another thing is being service oriented, because this is as a broker, it's all about your clients. Brian Shorter is incredibly good at that. I learn from him every day in the sense of putting your clients first and what they need. Even if you want to do something a different way, it's really all about them. And another thing I would say that has been incredibly valuable, that I thank my parents for kind of harping on it my entire life, but effective communication. I don't think you can build a true relationship with somebody unless you're effectively communicating. And I also think it's what helps me cope. Because you can't trick yourself into feeling good about a conversation or trick yourself into feeling an emotion. And I think truly effectively communicating allows you to cope and then also be resilient. Brokerage is not all rosy. There are tough conversations. There's a lot of money on the line, there's jobs on the line, and things get heated. And so that effective communication is really important. But same with my husband. If I'm expecting him to read my mind, it's probably not going to go that well. And then we'll just be pissed at each other and build animosity. So I just think communication is so important through building connection and, clearly working with clients. And it's something I spend a lot of time working on.
She said it here, it's about communication. One of the things that I say I would advise myself on, if I could talk to my younger self, is to get really good at writing emails and sharing your real voice, because you're going to write millions of them in the future. So it's about communications. You also talked about 8:30 p.m. You give each other a pat on the back and say, you've made it. Now, I can really relate to this. I'm a little jealous that you're hitting that 8:30 mark, because so you're getting way more pats on the back than are happening at our house. It's just tough.
I know.
And you've got all of this scheduling, this plan, this village in place to make most days go well. But sometimes it doesn't go well, and the train comes off the tracks, and it's extremely intense. And what do you do about those moments?
Yeah, because sometimes you can work and work and work, and your inbox tally just goes up and up and up. And that definitely happens, especially right now. The market there's so much pent up demand. So there's a ton of volume in the market right now. I would say if I'm feeling like I'm getting pinged from all directions and my stress levels are really high, and in that moment I'm probably a little negative in my outlook, I will say, okay, I just have to go sit on the Peloton and crank through emails, because I might not be getting the best workout, and it might be better if I was sitting at my desk, but at least I'm productively kind of grinding that number down. And I might not get to the more critical emails that require me to really sit, but I can at least kind of power through some of them. I would say another one, if it's early in the morning, I love cheesy motivational podcasts, or just an armchair expert or a smart list, or some of those that are just kind of totally take you out of your own head. And without fail, I come out of that workout feeling kind of refreshed, rejuvenated, and ready to tackle as much as I can, knowing it's probably not everything.
I love that advice. And I too, I get my motivation from others. I went to many years ago, decades ago, I started out in art school. And one of the things they teach you to do is copy the masters. So more than 20 years ago, there was a period of my life where I painted paintings that were done by, like Edward Hopper. And it's really something that I think about today when you try to copy those that do it better than you to keep your cup full.
Absolutely. If someone else has something figured out, I am happy to borrow it. And I'm always open for advice. So if anybody listening, I'm 30 seconds into having 4 kids. I need all the advice and help I can get.
And the whole process keeps changing on us.
Yeah.
Okay, over the years, we've had so many conversations about how much you love the business. I remember one time we were in Washington, D.C., and we were absorbing all of the political environment of D.C. and the sites, and you had your laptop open. Occasionally I'd look back and you'd have your laptop open on the street, and you were just getting some business done in the moment, while on location. You truly love it. I mean, you love retail brokerage specifically, you love the clients, you love the hard work. How has that sort of passion and love for the business shaped your career?
Well, I think with the example you just gave, being in DC with you, the opportunity to go to DC with you and learn about policy and all of these things I know nothing about through DMCAR. I mean, that in and of itself is an exciting part of the business. Specifically to retail brokerage, I think what I've realized that I like within the niche of this business is it kind of fosters a friendly landscape. Because when you're calling a broker about a deal, you might be competing on one site, but in the exact same conversation, you're trying to get that broker to bring a tenant to another. So it really is like a more of a win-win environment. Not that there's confrontation, but everybody's trying to work towards a common goal. And then also, it's a volume business in retail. So you're doing a lot of deals. There's not one deal out there for the market. And none of them are that big. So it kind of eliminates a little bit of the greed, I think, being specifically to retail brokerage, which I like. All deals are different. So I'm constantly learning and building experiences and kind of building a database of how to handle things, watching someone like you, how you handle it, watching my partners, how they handle complicated situations, surrounding myself with people who are far better than me at whatever the task at hand is. And then, learning from my mistakes, which we all make a lot of mistakes all the time. So I love that part of the business. It's not any one piece that's so much or gets so stressful, but the reality is it is important. And I think all of us are we're grinding through because we really care. And we really want to do a good job for our clients. And I think that piece of it is what kind of keeps us going. And it's energizing to work with innovative landlords and developers and new retailers and concepts, sitting in the car all day with a founder of a company who has so much experience under their belt. So really kind of listening and learning. I would pay to go and do that. So the fact that I get to call it work is, I think, kind of a dream. And I think the other thing that's really great about brokerage, that's humbling and also kind of instills the fear of God in you a little bit, that the other shoe's going to drop. You can't get complacent, because it sounds cliche, but you are only as good as your last deal. So you might have a good year or have a big deal or whatever, but it truly doesn't matter. It's really the course of your whole career, kind of working hard, staying focused, and that's what keeps you motivated, because nobody's paying your bills. You have to be the one to keep grinding. If I'm going to send my kids to college, I have to work really, really hard. So there's a foundation of inspiration and motivation inherently in the business that I love.
I love that your perspective really comes from your day in and out. The work you're doing is always short-term, long-term, short-term, long-term.
You're right.
And it maintains your perspective. For those of you who are doing some life planning and taking some notes, I took some notes of my own. It's not just about this kind of 3,000 foot hunger that you see in Courtney. There are some nuts and bolts here. Number one, efficiency. She's about the efficiency. She set up her village, and she has invested in communication, both at work, when she's getting a deal going, and when it falls apart, she leans on that. She leans on it at home. Ellen, do we have any questions from out in the audience? Do you want to let me know, or I can repeat them for the camera?
Courtney, what is the best way you have found to overcome the boys club in commercial real estate? Meaning when men may not think you know as much as they do about the industry.
So about the boys club, how do you deal with it, Courtney?
I guess I don't really, and maybe this is just me being naive or ignorant, but I don't really feel like it's such a boys club. I mean, clients, if you work hard, they don't really care if you're male or female. From that perspective, I do think you kind of have to work a little harder to prove yourself, to show that you do know what you're talking about. You might have a little more scrutiny, but then on the flip side of that, you probably get a little bit more credit than you should. Sometimes you kind of have to use the advantage that you have, I guess. But I think so long as you work hard, people aren't going to care if you're a male or a female. So long as you're doing a good job for your clients. And also, I think the real estate is really family friendly. All the men that I work with who are dads, they, once you get through the being pregnant and breastfeeding and pumping in that first year, it's pretty much an equal playing field. All the dads that I work with, they are so incredibly involved in their kids' lives, running around to soccer games and doing all of it. So I kind of feel like we also need to give some props to the men who work their tails off at work and then also at home. But I would say my advice is don't focus on it. Focus on yourself.
Competency always wins in our business. And what we've heard in the study, the men are saying, I want all those things too. What are you doing to represent ladies better in the business? I want all those things too. So I agree with you. And Ellen, do we have any others, or do you want? I have a few of my own too.
Okay. Let's see. How do you overcome obstacles in earning trust from clients and coworkers in this male-oriented industry, especially when you started your broker career?
Yeah, I think it goes back to just working hard. The baseline for everyone in this business, there's a lot of great brokers in this market, and the baseline is just working hard. If you put in the hours to have the right information, again, people don't care if you're a male or a female. If you're doing what's right for your client, getting them the comps they need, having a good handle and a good pulse on the market. We work at SullivanHayes, we do everything in teams. I think recognizing that you're usually better in a team than you are by yourself is really important. So I really don't think the composition of being male or female, but I also think as a female, it is important for us to note there are fewer female brokers and we need to build each other up. I think some of my advice would be to not be catty, not be dramatic, and build up your female compadres. Katie does an amazing job at it. You've always built me up and given me so much confidence. And I think that kindness and confidence that you've shown me encourages me to want to give it to others. So I think really recognizing that is important.
I love it. There is kind of a saying out there when I visit other markets. Sometimes I travel and talk about the success we've had at DMCAR in other states. And in Chicago, in particular, there's a lot of sense of there's this familial kind of foundation to the commercial real estate industry there. And a lot of times they'll say there's a brotherhood in commercial real estate for the Denver market. And what Courtney's saying is, let's do sisterhood too. Ellen, what else do we have in the queue?
All right. What have you outsourced in your personal or professional life that has made the biggest difference in your focus, happiness, balance, etc.?
Oh yeah, I have some really straightforward ones. I don't do laundry. And before we had kids, my husband would tell you I also didn't do laundry then. So my marriage is probably better now. Our nanny manages all the groceries, most of the cooking. There's just a reality to how much time there is in the day. I don't particularly love to cook. I would, if I could have focused on it, maybe I'd be a good cook, but I haven't. And so, there are some really basic things of keeping our life in order. Picking up the kids at 4:30, I can't do that. I mean, I guess I could. I just probably wouldn't be putting enough time into work to actually do a good job. So I think there's some real outsourcing that I would have to argue have made my life a lot better. Having a house cleaner once a week now that we have a bazillion people living in our house, because I work hard and we have a dual income family, we can afford some of those things, and that's a real benefit.
I love that. And one of the other top producing women that we talk to sometimes says, get after it in your commercial real estate career right away out of college and get yourself to earning at a certain level so that you can afford the village you need.
Yep.
So
that's great advice.
Ellen, do we have one more before we do our giveaway?
What do you do to help yourself deal with stressful deals and work situations as we all know that some things can get out of our control.
Yeah, I think that is real, because if you allow yourself to kind of fall into a rumination loop where you're up at 1 a.m. replaying a conversation in your mind, that gets to a point where it is not productive at all. So how do you truly, kind of back to the idea of, you can't trick yourself into feeling good about something. So I do think there are some tools with that. One, kind of always acting honorably, concise communication. If you're doing everything you can do, kind of working your hardest, doing your best, you'll probably be able to work through some of those emotions. I think if you messed up, having whatever conversation you need to have to kind of clear that air, or just making a commitment to yourself to do it better next time and move forward. That happens all the time. Self-evaluation, addressing what you did wrong and what you could do better. We pitch for accounts all the time that we don't get. So why didn't we get it? Is it a chemistry or a relationship that another broker had with that client or tenant? Is it something that you could have done better? Did they have a better pitch deck? Do they have a better foundation of knowledge? And do I need to work harder to get there? So being really real about identifying what you can do better, I think helps. And I do think it all goes back to that piece of communication. If you're communicating effectively with somebody, and again, if you've done your best, that's one thing. But then it also goes back to having the right teammates. If I have a really frustrating conversation, I'll call, Slaughter or Shorter or Julie or whoever it is, and kind of vent and talk through it and figure out what we can do better the next time. So you have to have your sounding boards, your people. And I'll talk through it with my husband, figure out what I can do better next time. But then you kind of, through doing that, you let go of it and you move forward. And I'm not, holding on to something. And, I think that resilience and that, how do you get to tough skin it's a really good question, because you don't just have tough skin. You have, procedures in place that help get you there. And again, if I'm just stressed out and almost to the point where I can't be productive because I'm too stressed out, I work out.
Yeah, I do that too. Somehow it's the ultimate reset. The other reset, sometimes when you just don't know the way ahead, ask yourself for the answer, then have a good night of sleep, and then ask yourself for the answer again.
Oh my gosh, you just hit the nail on the head. I forgot sleep. Yeah, if I'm feeling, I think I've come to a point where I'm old enough to understand, if I'm feeling like I'm tired and I can't emotionally process, I have a good night's sleep, I work out, and then I revisit it. And usually then you realize it's not important and you move on.
I got this. There's a real sense of conditioning about you. We've had you on the Next Rung. The Next Rung is our program where we mentor 100 young and middle career people a year to identify the rung in front of them on their ladder. That is their career life. Sometimes it's their personal life. But what we talk about is the more you climb, the more you're conditioned to climb, and you figure out that you're never going to say no, and that you have within you everything you need to keep going.
Yeah.
And I love your comments repeatedly today about you can't fool yourself. To me, when I hear you say that, another person who I really look up to in the business says, how do you face the bullet? And it's kind of the same thing. You say it so gracefully, like it's this peaceful thing where you're going to bed at night and saying, how do I feel about how I behaved today? But really it's, if something's coming up, you've really maybe misstepped, and it's how do you fix it?
Yeah.
And you fix it a lot of times with communication.
Being able to say, I point the finger at yourself. I messed up. I didn't do a good job, and I need to do better next time if I'm gonna get the business that I want to get. And for me, I'm in the first couple innings of my career. I have so much to prove, so much hard work ahead of me, so much to learn. And so I think, again, kind of harping on surrounding yourself with the right people. You always want to be around people who are better than you at whatever it is that their skill set is. And so really surrounding yourself with, whether it be clients, tenants, landlords, brokers, friends, so I think the people around us, I think, are really important. Family, my God, we got so lucky. We both hit the family jackpot. We have incredibly supportive families. When I after the laser surgery with the twins, I was effectively on modified bed rest for 5 months and couldn't pick up my toddlers. And my parents essentially moved here, and they work full time. They moved here to help us. So
Amazing.
having family, and not everybody has family here. So I feel really lucky, feel grateful.
We have about 3 minutes, and I have one last question for you. Are you okay with receiving questions from the audience if
Oh,
anyone
yeah.
has? So we will
Questions,
send out,
criticism, advice, send it all over. I want all of it.
reach out to Courtney if you have quiet questions you want to ask her, if you want her attention and you're waiting in the chat room. All right, Courtney, if you had it to do all over again, what piece of advice would you give yourself from the start? If you could talk to your younger self, the beginning of the journey to success and 7 people in the house, all of it, what would you say?
I think that as I've gotten older, I'm better at, like I mentioned, identifying what I'm not good at. And I wish I would have learned that when I was even younger, to kind of point the finger at myself more for what I'm doing wrong, and kind of just taking that responsibility for whatever it may be. I'm making it sound dramatic, but little things here and there along the way, but just saying, okay, well, rather than being defensive about maybe how I handled a client or how they responded to me if they were upset, being able to say, yeah, they're right. I probably did something wrong. And I think that's a skill I've developed and still need to work on, but something I wish I could look at my 20-year-old self and be better at kind of identifying my own faults.
Yeah. Getting to the heart of it faster.
Getting to the heart of it faster so that you can move on quicker, kind of that coping, that resilience, you move on, you move forward. And so I think that, that's one. I feel really lucky that I found a great mentor early. I know we've talked about this. I think it's everything. And I just don't know how you can be successful in this business without having people that believe in you and teach you. So I luckily got that, but anybody that's listening who kind of needs to organically find that path, I think one piece of the reason I got it too is kind of that framework of hard work. Your baseline has to be working hard. Nobody hands you anything ever. So kind of like a roll with the punches attitude, I think has been really beneficial. But yeah, in looking back, just kind of recognizing how competitive I am, that I can steamroll people at times. And I think sometimes that's okay in terms of being decisive, making decisions, moving forward, doing what we need to do, but maybe sometimes being a little more sensitive.
I hear that. Courtney, it has been an absolute pleasure. I know that we talked a lot before we came on camera today, and you shared so much. It's juicy. We're grateful, and I can't wait to watch it again. All of you, you know what to do. Let's unmute and say thank you to Courtney. Thank you for being here. I also want to, before we do our giveaway, I want to say again, thank you to Centennial Lending. Julia, thank you for the support. I know you're a big fan of Courtney with the rest of us here. Now, at every one of our Women in Commercial event series, we give away a couple of beautiful pieces of jewelry. They are 2 necklaces. They say, she believed she could, so she did. And Ellen, do we have our random names?
Yes. Lorraine Saldivar and Mindy Devine.
Lorraine Saldivar and Mindy Devine. We will ship these to you, and you can see them on the screen there. Ellen's put it up so you can see what you're getting. Love having you all with us today. It's a wrap. See you next time.
Thank you.